You can believe in whatever you want.
I can believe that you're not serious about this because
For a
you
second,
don't
I
have
thought
your
you were going to say,
headphones.
I believe you're not a serial killer. I don't know why. Welcome, everybody, to Flatlands Podcast. We are joined again with Josh to continue our series on the wonderful wedding experience of 2018.
Yeah, and last time we had talked, it was at the end of the wedding, and you had mentioned that the pastor had said, everyone go over there. So,
Yep. And we had changed clothes, and we were going to meet back up at the reception after.
So let's go ahead and get into it. So, Josh, so far you kind of gave your words on how you thought in the last episode.
Right.
So far, what you've heard about.
What I want to start this one off is what, based off, because we kind of talked about it, but not physically for this one. What, before we'd say anything else, what are you expecting the reception to be like after this 7-minute wedding?
Well, the reception has to be no better than, hopefully it would be somewhat of an improvement, but from how the rehearsal went, the wedding went, I'm expecting reception to be no different.
I was going to ask you as well, knowing what you know now about how the rehearsal and the wedding went, right? Everything you know about the rehearsal and the rehearsal reception and now the wedding. What is your take so far on this whole entire thing, this whole entire saga that's gone on? What do you think? Like, what is your total take on the whole thing?
So far, I'm thinking, why are we even having this wedding?
Right. So you're still in the same thoughts of
Yes.
How you originally were. Like, why?
Like, what's the point? Obviously, there was no care to put proper planning into this. Changing things last minute when the wedding was actually going on shows also lack of care. So it's like, what's the point? Why are we doing this?
Yeah. Well, what I also want to know is, what do you expect the cake to be like? What do you expect the type of food they provide for this reception?
I'm thinking McDonald's.
That would have actually been a lot better.
That would have
Right.
been an improvement, that's for sure. Yeah.
Cake wise,
Like, obviously, you got the traditional cakes and stuff, but
Yeah, and you
What-
know
what do
how
you
there's
expect
always
it
the wedding cake
Yeah.
and then the groom
Like-
cake.
the cake I'm thinking went to a supermarket bakery and picked up the cake that day without even pre-ordering a cake. Just going up there,
Okay,
seeing a
and-
cake. And
What
I
do you
will
think?
say I can pretty much confirm that did not happen, but that's probably very close to what happened.
Yes, and what do you think? Honestly, the cake itself looked like
Not only the outside, but what kind of like the inside do you think it looked
and
like
and
if I
the
thought it was-
design of the cake as well.
kind of like if I thought it was like white or chocolate on the inside.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with traditional white.
Okay, and what do you think the design of the cake is? Like, how many tiers do you think it was? What do you think the design of the cake itself was?
Just based on how I've heard how everything else went and the lack of planning, I'm gonna say very basic cake of just a single layer.
I'm going to show you a photograph of this cake.
All right.
I will say already, you are wrong. It is a two-tiered cake.
Two-tier. I was
And it is clearly not day of supermarket bought.
right.
This also gives you the theme as well, because this cake's on its own table. So it kind of gives you the theme of the reception.
Right.
So here's what we want to know. What is your take on that cake?
Well, I have to say the cake and the table is vastly an improvement on so far what the wedding has been.
But what do you think about the design of it?
The
Yeah.
design of the cake,
Did you notice what was on the top?
like, are we having a little mermaid?
I will tell
Just
you
like
what.
a little
I will
girl's
tell you
birthday
what.
party we're at.
Seems like it. This is what my take was.
I
on
was
it.
thinking Finding Nemo personally.
That's what I was thinking
Right.
too. It looks like a Finding Nemo theme.
Yeah.
The reason we never mentioned the theme of the wedding is because
We never knew it.
I don't
I
even
still
think there
don't know
fucking
it.
was one, dude. I think
This
like
looks
that
very
cake
tropical
makes it
because they're trying to get the little
right.
tropical trees.
I think that cake even makes it look like, you know, there was supposed to be like an underwater or sea aquatic type of theme to the wedding, but there wasn't anything
Yeah,
like that at all.
Here's a better of just a cake.
If I was to say they had this set up prior to the wedding, you know, walking
Mhm.
in, you know, kind of some weddings have the reception area already set up if they're in the same location. I would literally think I'm walking into a kid's birthday party.
Right. So I'm going to go ahead and describe the cake, obviously, for the
Yes,
listeners.
yeah.
All right. So it is a 2-tier cake. Bottom tier is, would you say, Steven, smaller than the top tier in terms of thickness?
In thickness, yes, it is just a
Yeah.
hair thinner.
Yeah. It is obviously wider. There is at the base,
And it is not fondant. It is actually icing.
So you got starfish on the bottom, you got conch shells, you got some other weird shells, and then it's blue with like white bubble designs. Not even that great of a design. Then
I believe it was an airbrushed icing cake.
fade on to with a white, and then that's the end of the bottom tier. You got like a shark, a barracuda, a weird sea turtle looking 2D thing.
The 2D thing actually looks like the turtle from Finding Nemo.
Yeah,
It
it's a little
legitimately looks
different
like
though. It's not crushed though.
No, but it looks a lot like him.
Then a seahorse, and then another fish, and then it goes to the exact same design. So you got as the bottom tier, which is obviously smaller, and it's the bubbles again, blue fades to white on the top, and then two seahorses.
Before you go any further, this is the first cake I've ever seen at a wedding that does not have a bride and groom on top of it.
Yes, 2 seahorses, and then 2 interlocking, like I guess like ceramic hearts. With
I don't think they could afford ceramic. They're probably plastic from Walmart.
And
Yeah, probably.
I don't know about
with a
weddings
dolphin and then some other random
Right.
fish.
Like, I don't know about the weddings y'all have been to, but usually some of the weddings I've been to usually have the bride's cake, which is usually the
The
traditional,
tall, the tier 1,
with the
multi-tier.
bride and groom on it. And then some weddings will have a groom's cake, which is
Uh,
usually looks a little more manly.
And usually, either has 2 tiers, or it's just a standard single tier,
Right.
just regular
Yeah,
rectangle
But
cake.
then that way.
And it's almost always a chocolate cake
Yes.
in the
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I'm going to show you the table that was designated for the
Oh,
bride
and real
groom.
quick too, just so you know, the 2 seahorses on the top are facing the same direction,
Yes,
whereas
they are.
usually,
In the photo, they are facing left. They're not facing at each other.
yeah,
They
Now,
don't even
where-
represent the bride and groom.
right. Where we could have made the exception for that is
is
if
that they're
would've-
facing each other.
if they were facing each other and you had one dressed kind of like the groom and the other one kind of
Mhm.
like a bride.
Because I've
Then
seen
that-
non-traditional wedding
Yeah,
cake.
Right.
But typically, there's always
Before.
a form of bride and groom on
Yeah,
top
there's
of the cake.
there's like an obvious this is the wedding cake, even if it's non-traditional. Whereas this obviously would fall under the
I-
non-traditional.
I think when she was there ordering a cake, if she was even there ordering the cake,
I think they
she
just
got
said
stuck on a birthday
blue and white.
section instead of the wedding section.
Yeah,
Yes.
I will agree with you on that.
But this is the table designated to the bride and groom, so you get a refresher yourself, Jonathan. You can see
Okay,
it.
and while you're showing that to Josh, going back to the cake real quick, do you think a professional person did that, or do you think that was a follow tutorial on YouTube? That
I
was
just realized the
at
upper
home.
tier is not even on top of the bottom tier. There's actually a shadow.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, which that will also go
There's
into.
like a half-inch gap.
Yeah, I'm asking both of y'all that this, and then I'll give my answer. That this was homemade, or do you think it was bought at a store?
Oh, this had to have been. I mean, if it's a YouTube tutorial, it's one of the better ones I've ever seen, but it's clearly not store-bought because store-bought typically for that type of cake would have fondant the whole because it would have looked more professional. It would have looked cleaner. You can tell by the icing, it looks like shit.
Depending from where I worked at, I've seen store-bought cakes look just like this for the fact that they do fondant. Fondant is an extra charge, and not a lot of people want to pay that extra money for the fondant. And usually with fondant, you have to place it more in advance. This cake looks like it was placed. If it was store-bought and it was properly ordered, not just picked up, it looks like at least maybe a day in advance.
I almost wonder if they bought 2 cakes and stacked it themselves.
Yeah, that could
They could have
possibly
bought
be
2
it.
different sizes of the same cake and then decorated
I mean,
the
that-
rest of it.
Right.
But
I can see them putting their own bubbles on it.
I've
Right.
seen professional cakes with obviously fondant on there, obviously.
Yeah.
But I've seen professional cakes where it's been mostly icing, and it's professional, and it looks really, really good. This one you can see where obviously the spatula was on it. You can see the circles on it wasn't that great. In my personal opinion, I think it may have been homemade by someone who may have worked in the bakery section at the local grocery store.
And I will agree with you on that just because I'm going to show him this photo. But this is going to show you what type of cake it was. It was a vanilla and chocolate marble cake. And I don't know very many birthday cakes or wedding cakes that tend to be marble cake.
I will say that I have seen birthday cakes, graduation cakes primarily, where they have mixed the two.
Yeah. I'll
But
say
never for a
definitely
wedding.
for
Yeah, and
I'll say that
see, that's
for a
what- and that's-
graduation or just like a regular, just generic cake.
yeah, but so
But-
that's where I kind of think that you might be right, where she got stuck in the birthday section
Now I
and she
really
didn't
want
flip the
cake.
page in the catalog one more to the wedding section.
But then again, also based on just how they are from what
Mhm.
I've interpreted from all these, maybe she not necessarily got stuck on the birthday section. Maybe she made it through and looked at some wedding cakes, but she liked that cake.
If it was her that
If
that
it
chose
was her.
Yeah,
and I have a
yes.
feeling that neither Jim nor her spoke about that cake
Probably not.
because we know that Jim had told us.
Especially when you look at it, the only yellow, since the colors were a light blue and yellow, the only yellow on it is literally
The sea turtle,
the sea turtle and a little bit of lighting on the seahorses.
Yeah. And it
like
doesn't
the cake doesn't even follow the,
The
color
cake
scheme.
itself only has the blue, and it's
Like
only
there's
a very
hardly
because
there's hardly
it's-
anything that did follow the
it's got-
color
it's-
scheme.
Yeah, it's got like a little bit of the regular blue, which is the transitional blue between the darker blue and the white. That's the only blue that matches the
I think
wedding
really
blue.
the only color scheme and the reason there was a color scheme was because when they ordered those, they were having to they had to ask them what is the color scheme and they had to choose. And I think that is the reason why the blue and yellow were chosen. I mean, honestly, I think that was, or unless that was just a stock image selection of them and they just said that one.
Well,
In fact,
all I can
actually,
say
here is the colors with the bride and groom in front of the cake, with the cake in front of them. I mean, and it's clearly not matching her bouquet, which is directly behind the cake.
The old lady in the background looks like she ain't really having a good time either.
No, she doesn't. I haven't seen that yet.
She's like,
She is pissed at this wedding.
she's like, oh, this is the worst reception
And
ever.
she
been."
wasn't in it.
Yeah, right. She doesn't know about the whole entire thing.
She knows jack shit. She just knows the wedding
Mhm.
was 7 minutes long and the reception was shit.
Yes.
The food, they literally had those metal containers you put your turkey in at Walmart to bake it.
Okay.
All filled with ham and cheese, turkey and cheese, cut in triangle sandwiches. That was the meal to the reception,
the meal to the reception was finger foods.
was sandwiches.
And I mean, I'm not going to knock finger foods on it. At the same time, usually it's the reason there would be finger foods is because the cake itself is the main thing. Usually,
But
like
at the same-
everyone gets like a slice or two of the actual wedding cake.
Yeah, but typically from the weddings I've been to, the rehearsal dinner
Would
is
be.
slightly lower or equal to the reception meal.
Yeah.
It's never been, let's get good barbecue, even though it was home cooked and it was still pretty good.
Yeah.
But I've never gone to a wedding reception
Because
and they dropped to one.
What was your sister's?
She just did cake and ice cream and punch.
And see, I've even seen that.
And that was still good. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, it was not better than
And-
we went out to that restaurant, but
Right.
still, even which was still funny because our grandparents looked at us weird because him and I both got wine,
Oh yeah.
and they looked at us like, "How dare you?"
Yeah. So we were debating, should we drink this?
Yeah. So we
Hey,
didn't finish it.
hey,
We just took a couple
It,
sips.
it can't be any worse than you and me shotting M&Ms at a church banquet.
There's a whole nother.
Yep.
thing we
That
could do.
whole Christmas thing for the church is another episode. But I will say this, though. I've been to weddings where they don't provide a meal because of the time of day
Right.
to the weddings.
That,
it's-
or they
like
couldn't
it's-
afford
like
it.
it's yeah, or that. But it's kind of in between lunch and dinner, or
Mhm.
it's too late for dinner. So they kind of just say, well, everybody's probably going to eat before they get here because of the time that it is. So
Yeah.
there's no point in providing a meal when everybody's probably going to eat in advance.
Like I'm not against it, but at the same time, it was the finger food selection because usually if it's finger foods, little bitty sandwiches, usually there's like an entree of like dipping, like
Yeah.
carrots.
And no, it was
Grapes.
just the sandwiches and the drinks. They never drank the punch. I never drank the punch.
I didn't even remember.
But they
that.
also
I didn't
had-
even know they
but
had.
they
a punch.
also had this place had obviously it has its own little kitchen, but outside of the kitchen in the actual fellowship hall area, they actually have a refrigerator and it was full of sodas. But nobody told anybody where the drinks were because everybody kept asking me who showed up after the garter thing was pulled off, after the bouquet was thrown. All this was done before me and him finished getting dressed. So I never saw any of that.
Well, you saw the cake.
Yeah, but no, I saw it
never,
after they eaten it though.
Yeah, I never even saw
Yeah.
the cake at all.
So
it wasn't until the photos.
The cutting of the cake, the drink, the crossed arms drink, the garter toss, and the bouquet toss.
Because see,
I never saw it.
the mistake they made with that is they said that we could go change, and we took fucking advantage of that shit. Because typically,
And see, it didn't take me more than 10 minutes from the time we took the photos, because they couldn't obviously do that until they were done taking photos. And we were done with our photo before the bride was done. And it didn't take me but 10 minutes to get dressed, which means they took photos, went in there and did all of that in 10 minutes. 15 tops. That's awfully quick to do that.
and I obviously put stuff in the car for us.
Yeah,
like I went ahead and took your suit.
But the car was parked right by the door, right by that. But that's another thing why I know they didn't tell anybody that refrigerator had drinks in it, was because I don't know how many people are like, where are the drinks at? Where are the drinks at? Where are the drinks at? I'm like, did nobody say drinks are in the fridge? Food's right there? They didn't even put the drinks out on the table. They had a bowl of punch, and I guess nobody liked it because they kept asking for other drink.
Yeah, and go ahead and also, because you alluded to it in the last episode, about what we had heard that might go down during the reception.
Yeah, we were told, and then it was kind
by
of
Jim himself.
Yeah, and it was kind of verified by what we found out after the reception that it might happen. But we were told there was a good chance there was going to be in the family fighting on either side, or both families fighting each other.
Yeah, so in family fighting or inter-family fighting.
And then what confirmed that is right after the rehearsal, we found out.
Or was
later,
it the rehearsal? No, it wasn't the rehearsal.
No, it was the rehearsal. We found that it was mentioned. We didn't find out till the day of the wedding.
Because
But we found out after the rehearsal was complete, her family was still saying, why are you marrying him? You don't need to marry him. Do not marry him. You're not going to marry him.
And we also found out on top of that they were trying to convince her all the way up until she walked into the lobby of the church to walk down the aisle.
Up until the physical wedding started, they kept telling her, don't marry him. Do not get married to him.
Wow.
Which is, like I said, confirmed the suspicions that there might be some fighting amongst the families.
Right.
Because at the very least, after hearing that, I would have thought that his family would have fought her family, because she's still being told, do not marry him.
Mm-hmm. Like, why are you guys meddling and trying to fuck with this shit?
Yeah. Right. I mean, they literally did it up till the day of.
And I mean, like to me, that's honestly that's petty and fucked up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And if you're that extreme, because they did do the formality of, if there's anyone, who,
it was very brief, and nobody had a problem with the.
No one was like, "Hey, I object." It's like, if that's the point, then that's when you should fucking do it.
Which also kind of explains, because obviously he mentioned before that Jim has a tendency to have seizures and stuff. Well, so does his wife. So we still question who really takes care of who. But when they finally were done and the reception was over, they went on their honeymoon. Well, Jim's dad had to drive them to their honeymoon, because neither one of them are allowed to drive. Neither one of them can get a driver's license until they don't have seizures.
Right.
For more than 6 months. And Jim seems to have a seizure like right at that time. Like, he gets almost full 6 months into where he can get his license, and then he has another one. Happens almost constantly. So their honeymoon was in Colorado. His dad had to drive them to Colorado and stay in a separate hotel so he could drive them back. And then she moved in with him in his apartment with his dad.
And that's why we're like, no one helped them plan this. Like, they didn't really plan it themselves.
Yeah, they were literally on their own from start to finish.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously we're going to dog on them. I mean, Jim is a good friend of ours, so of course naturally we're gonna have to give him shit for a shit wedding, obviously. But we have
already vowed that he will be forced into both of our weddings.
Yes,
to show him what a real wedding is supposed to look like.
Yes, there is no one helped them plan it. That's why in the last episode I was like, you usually see, OMG, I'm going to be helping you plan this wedding, right?
And even then, that's what I was saying about, like, if his mother did not have the unfortunate timing of her death for the wedding, at least.
Right.
So, I mean, nobody wants to see their mother go anyways, but unfortunately, she went before they even got engaged. And I'm pretty sure if she was still alive for the wedding, I guarantee she'd be like, hey, Jim, I got this. Whatever you want, come to me, let me know, and I can help you make sure this wedding's perfect.
Right.
And I mean, that was honestly, in my opinion, that was the real tragedy of the wedding, is that no one really helped, along with her family, which could explain why no one really helped, is because her family was very, very adamant about her not going through with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's probably why nobody helped her.
And it could have been good intentions with both of them, thinking of who would take care of who, you know.
But after meeting some of the family, I feel like they just don't like Jim.
Yeah,
I really feel like it's just they don't think he's good enough for her.
Obviously, you know, we're obviously joking about we blame everything on Jim for this wedding, you know.
Yeah,
and he's obviously a good friend of ours. Like, no fucking lie, no bullshit.
Like,
but
honestly,
at the same time, he's good enough of a friend where it's like, are you fucking serious that you guys are doing this? Like, we were getting pissed off for Jim. Yeah, we were pissed that we were there. We didn't like that we had to go there. But at the same time, it was like, hold the fuck on. This is...
Yeah, but no lie, if we could, he'd be sitting right here with us, laughing and making fun of his own wedding. I guarantee it.
Yeah, so it's just like what the fuck? You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, it makes no sense to me on why this wedding couldn't have been any better than it was, you know. And given, like, on a serious note, all the seizures aside, and, you know, possible learning disabilities that are associated with that, there was still no one there guiding them. Like, yeah, obviously we're dogging on his bride, you know. It comes with the territory. He's a good friend of ours, so we dog on him too,
even though we didn't meet her until the rehearsal.
Yeah. But at the same time, there was still no one there going, like, you and talking to her, being like, hey, like, letting her know this is your day. You can choose. You can say no. You can say yes. You can say whatever.
Which
instead what they were doing is they were trying to take that opportunity of telling her she could say no to marrying Jim.
Yeah. But see, also at the same time, that makes me question, as I know obviously she has a seizure and everything, and I could mess with the mind,
the cognitive abilities and all that other shit. Yeah.
But I wonder at the same time, if they were doing that up until the wedding, does the way she was raised by her family pose a threat to her always saying yes? I mean, was she raised in a way that if she said no, she got in trouble?
I mean, that honestly, you bring up a very valid possible point with that. Like,
because honestly, I mean, yeah, as much as we hate it being there, we didn't want to be there, as much as we make fun of it and dog on them for it, we did our best to help the wedding be as good as possible.
Yeah.
We were making plans for them while we were there. And if we had the time and he would have asked us for assistance, we would have been like, yeah, we don't want to fucking do this, but, you know, you're our buddy. We're going to jump in, dude. We're going to help you.
All that, you know, knowing that there was fighting and knowing how, now obviously now knowing the background of it, there was a reason we intentionally kept it out, because we wanted your actual reactions to the wedding as it was unfolding. What do you think now, knowing this and knowing what you know, now looking back, what do you think of the rehearsal and what do you think of the wedding that followed?
I mean, I don't know. It just seems like it was so sporadic. Definitely, you know, no planning. And then kind of, you know, sad on the part of the bride's family for how they were treating her day. Mm-hmm. I mean, if she wanted to marry the dude, it's her choice. I mean, she knows territory and everything like that. And then it's kind of, you know, besides y'all, you know, trying to chime in and help, it's kind of sad that nobody else picked up that they didn't really know what they were doing, basically, and didn't step up to, you know, try to help.
And two, Jim obviously moved away from us.
Right.
So we, up until that point, obviously there was a year removed from when he proposed, asked me to be the bride, the bridesmaid.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Switch sides.
See, there we go. Now we know why we switched sides. We have now, Josh has officially answered why. But
I know for a fact I was asked to be a groomsman, not a bridesmaid. So,
because I corrected him. But okay. The best man, like being from being asked, there's obviously a year in between that time. So I had not seen Jim up until then.
And we don't really talk since he's moved either. And unfortunately, he didn't have a choice in the matter.
Yeah.
His mom had passed and his dad was like, well, I need to go move somewhere else where I can get work so I can support everybody.
Yeah.
So, but since they've moved up there, though, that it was just Jim and his dad living together. His brothers had actually finally moved out too. So I think that helped as well.
Yeah, but, you know, since he had left, and obviously we had not seen him in a really long time, I think it was definitely over a year, maybe almost a year and a half since the last time that we saw him prior to seeing him again at the rehearsal and the wedding that followed. still, even then, it was like there's obviously not much that we could do in the way of helping in terms of like planning it and helping him make sure everything went smoothly. I look at it like, why wasn't there someone else that could have stepped up and helped him with that? And since we didn't really talk to him that much, and we obviously didn't know the bride until then, it's like, where was that one person who did know? Who could have helped?
He did have family that joined us up there for the wedding. They weren't a part of the wedding. One of them greeted me surprisingly. But even his wife, she'd been married twice. Yeah, she lives here where we do, but she didn't
offer to help.
Offer to help. Hell, I don't even think she was happy to be there because I don't remember hardly ever seeing her.
Yeah, but I mean, looking back on it, it's like, what the fuck happened? I like how this took a legit serious somber note, to be honest with you.
But it is the sad reality of the whole point of the wedding. Yeah, we were making fun of it and everything, but I think it needs to be said that unfortunately they didn't have any help. They didn't have the funding. So, I mean, they did with the best they could. And honestly, at least at the end of the day, they're happy. They're married. They're living the best life that they possibly can, even though we still may question some things about it. In the end, what matters is that they're happy and they're doing good.
Yep.
So I think this is actually going to be a good spot to end this one.
Yeah. And ironically, and I'll just say this is the close. Ironically, the first wedding episode was originally supposed to be the first episode. I don't even think in the actual real intro of the wedding episode we have welcome to Flatlands.
I don't remember. It's been so long since the first one's been recorded, to be completely honest. But yeah,
we didn't have a name yet. We didn't even we had nothing set up yet.
It's supposed to be, I believe, the original first episode, and it is several episodes later. It's months later even.
Yep.
We got it done within the same year though.
This is true.
And we got it done within the year of the wedding. So I say we're doing pretty good. But yeah, it's
well,
finally got that done with.
Thank you, Josh, for joining us on this wedding adventure. We appreciate it.
Thank you for
especially
having
all your input and true reactions to the disaster you just heard.
Yeah. Very.
But all right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to Flatlands, the podcast. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Steven.
I'm Josh.
And we'll see you next time.